Hello, welcome to Lesson 5 on Social and Cultural Functions of Agriculture. Today we'll discuss the connections between agriculture, local traditions, social farming, and tourism. We'll focus on preserving rural heritage and traditional knowledge, social farming and inclusion, agritourism, cultural heritage, and education. The goal is to understand the social and cultural aspects of multifunctional agriculture. Are you ready? Let's get started. So first things first, what do you think the social and cultural functions of agriculture are? I'll give you just a few seconds to think about it. One of the most compelling strengths of multifunctional agriculture lies in its ability to align production goals, ecological sustainability, society, and cultural values. This means being able to produce food or fiber in a way which is sustainable for the people and for the environment. Let's now think about the central role of farming in rural societies. Beyond its economic and environmental roles, agriculture performs vital social and cultural functions, particularly in rural Europe. Farms serve not only as units of production, but also as hubs of community life, custodians of heritage, and platforms of social inclusion. The multifunctional paradigm of agriculture acknowledges these dimensions, recognizing that farming activities contribute to the vitality, identity, and resilience of rural societies. Social and cultural functions include the preservation of traditional knowledge, the facilitation of inclusion through social farming, and the promotion of education, well-being, and community engagement. These factors are especially relevant in marginal areas where multifunctionality offers a pathway to rural regeneration and social innovation. Traditional agricultural practices such as dry stone walling, as you can see here in the picture, but also seasonal grazing or mixed cropping, contribute to biodiversity conservation, soil fertility, and landscape resilience. Agricultural heritage systems based on these practices still provide vital ecosystem services, enhance local identity, and support sustainable development, especially, as we already said, in marginalized, rural, mountainous areas. So here you see this figure summarizing the concept of agroecology, which is a tool, let's say, for the sustainable transition of agri-food system, both from the environmental, social, and cultural perspective. Agroecology is based on a set of principles and elements and is a transformative pathway towards sustainable food systems. The 13th principle comprehends, for example, soil health, animal health, biodiversity, synergy, but also recycling, input reduction, fairness, connectivity, participation. And the 10 elements are, for instance, diversity, resilience, culture, and food tradition, efficiency, circular and solidarity economy, and again, recycling, synergy, and so on. So, globally important agricultural heritage systems, designated by FAO, offer powerful examples of the synergy between traditional knowledge and agroecological sustainability. For instance, the honey rice terraces in China and the rice fish duck systems in Guizhou maintain traditional varieties while supporting complex cultural rituals, food preferences, and social networks to contribute to the preservation of agrobiodiversity. So these two different systems that you can see in the picture, in the two photos here, are a very good example of combining tradition, local knowledge, and agroecology sustainability. Traditions are also very much linked to food. So food culture is one of the strongest factors of traditional knowledge transmissions. Communities often preserve land races, for example, red rice or glutinous rice, and they do it not only for subsistence, but also for ritual use and cultural events. In this way, they ensure the conservation of these local products and local varieties, even when modern varieties dominate markets. As this tradition declines, so too does the genetic and cultural diversity they embody. So that's why we really want to preserve these traditions and help them to survive and be delivered to the next generations. Another topic is labeling of traditional products. The EU policies increasingly recognize these values. The support of geographical indications, which are PDO and PGI, but also the valorization of natural high nature value farming and agritourism incentives aim to preserve traditional farming systems and their associated knowledge. So what do we mean by PGI and PDO? So PGI stands for Protected Geographical Indication, and this means that a certain product is produced in a given geographical area and or the processing of that product is done in a given geographical area and or it is prepared in a given geographical area. On the other hand, PDO stands for Protected Designation of Origin, and this is more strict because to have this label, the final product must be produced in a given geographical area, and also the processing of the raw material which was produced in this specific area has to be processed, in fact, in this geographical area, and also the preparation has to be in that area. So these are nice tools that can be used to label traditional products in Europe, and they're very much recognized and seen as like a standard, high quality standards, so like indicators for high quality products. Okay, so however, successful conservation requires not only institutional support, but also the active involvement of local communities. The empowerment of women, which are often the guardians of traditional knowledge, and the documentation of ancient practices before they are lost. Another key thing of social and cultural agriculture, let's say, or the functions of agriculture, is protecting and transmitting traditional seeds and knowledge. Strategies such as community seed banks or farmer-to-farmer seed exchange and participatory conservation programs are crucial. These not only protect biodiversity, but also strengthen social bonds and local resilience. The multifunctionality of agriculture is evident. Preserving traditional knowledge contributes to food security, cultural identity, environmental services, and rural innovation. So in the figure here, in the photo, you see farmer-to-farmer seed exchange organized by Rete Semirurale, which is an association, an Italian association, which has been working for years on this on the topic of seeds. Yeah, so the idea is that this kind of events can really help to protect agrobiodiversity and at the same time helping a farmer of a given area or farmer producing the same crop, let's say, in the same region or in the same country. They can connect, they can exchange, and apart from exchanging seed, maybe they can also, get to know each other, trying to help each other if possible, giving some tips on how to do it properly. And this is especially important when you grow, for example, traditional varieties, ancient varieties, because maybe, not only they are the most not always, they are the most performative ones. Sometimes to grow them properly, you need to know how to treat them well, how to, what to do in order to get the best out of it. And for this, knowledge exchange and participatory programs are really, really important. Then there is the topic of social farming, and which is very useful for inclusion of disadvantaged people. So social farming is also known as care farming or green care, and it represents an increasingly recognized facet of multifunctional agriculture, particularly in Europe. As its core, social farming merges agricultural production with therapeutic, social, and educational activities, which are aimed at improving the well-being and inclusion of vulnerable individuals. This is far beyond a marginal niche. It is now acknowledged as a valuable tool for enhancing social cohesion, fostering inclusive development, and revitalizing rural economies. Social farming can help in many ways. This practice offers structured pathways to social participation for a diverse range of beneficiaries, including people with physical or cognitive disabilities, elderly individuals at risk of isolation, but also recovering addicts or former inmates and children with special needs. Through their engagement in farm activities, whether educational, rehabilitative, or productive, participants benefit from improved self-esteem, physical and mental health, and social integration. In Italy, programs like Agrinido, which are nurseries on farms, and Longevità Attiva, which are active aging initiatives, demonstrate the potential of agricultural spaces to serve as inclusive, international, and intergenerational, possibly also international, community hubs. So if you want to learn more about this, I can suggest you two books. They are in Italian, but I guess you can probably find a way to translate them if you use an e-reader. So one of them is Agrinidi, Agriasili e Asili nel Bosco by Terranuova Edizioni, and the other one is Longevità Attiva. So these are a useful book if you want to learn more about nurseries on farm and active engaging initiatives and how this can integrate with the agricultural production. Social farming has a high versatility. A key feature of social farming is its versatility. Social farms vary in form. Some operate as therapeutic environments without requiring direct participation in production, while others are fully inclusive farms, where the integration of socially marginalized individuals is central to the farm's mission and operations. Regardless of the model, many social farms adopt sustainable agronomic practices, such as organic production or low-input systems, aligning their ecological ethos with the social values they promote. Empirical evidence shows that social farming does more than support individual well-being. It contributes to diversifying farm income, enhances the multifunctional profile of agricultural holdings, and strengthens community networks. However, there are some barriers to the adoption of social farming. Despite its multiple benefits, the broader adoption of social farming across Europe is hindered by a combination of structural and cultural barriers. A lack of awareness, insufficient institutional support, and fragmented policies continue to limit the reach and quality of these initiatives. Many farmers remain unaware of social farming's potential or are discouraged by the bureaucratic complexity involved in launching and managing such programs. A pressing need for integrated policy frameworks that bridge agriculture, health, and social care is then needed. Where coherent support structure exists, such as in regions like Tuscany and Marche in Italy, social farming thrives as a dynamic and resilient model of community-based development. Conversely, in areas lacking recognition or funding, even promising initiatives struggle to scale. Ultimately, social farming illustrates how agriculture can evolve beyond production, embracing our broader mission as a vehicle for inclusion, care, and empowerment. It redefines the farm not only as a site of economic activity, but as a living space where human dignity, ecological sustainability, and social justice converge. Let's now go to the next topic, agritourism. So you remember we already talked about it in a previous previous lesson. We said that agritourism is the cornerstone of rural sustainability. Agritourism is a powerful expression of agricultural multifunctionality. Combining farming with hospitality allows visitors to experience rural life through farm stays, local gastronomy, cultural events, and hands-on activities and workshops. These experiences not only offer farmers a way to diversify income, but also help raise awareness about traditional agricultural practices, sustainable land management, and the origins of food. Research confirms that agritourism plays a vital role in rural sustainability. For example, a study found that agritourism in Sardinia, Italy, contributes to both economic resilience and the preservation of cultural landscapes. Similarly, traditional agro-silvopastoral systems, as the one we saw in Spain, the HESA, often combine tourism with cultural and environmental education. These systems safeguard a rich body of ancestral knowledge while supporting biodiversity, food security, and climate adaptation. Education is another essential function of multifunctional agriculture. Many farms now serve as living classrooms, welcoming school groups, university students, and local communities. Activities may include beekeeping demonstration, composting workshops, food literacy programs, or seasonal festivals. Something that has arrived recently is also vermicompost, which is basically compost made with earthworms. So to increase to speed up the process, and this is also something that has been used for this kind of school, like living classrooms and school programs. These initiatives promote intergenerational learning, encourage environmental awareness, and help bridge the gap between urban and rural societies. So they are really valuable initiatives. And also, they're often very fun. Like students usually like to go outside and see real farms and maybe being actively involved in these activities, in these workshops, doing some practical work, which is often not the main core of most schools or courses. Okay, so before we conclude this lesson, I have a few questions for you. I will read them to you one by one. You can pause the video and answer them. So let's start. Let's get started. What social and cultural functions does agriculture perform in addition to production? Why are these functions particularly relevant in marginal rural areas? What is meant by non-market goods generated by multifunctional farms? How do traditional agricultural landscapes contribute to the preservation of European cultural heritage? More questions. Why is traditional knowledge considered essential for the sustainability of agricultural systems? What is meant by social farming, and which categories of people benefit from it? What obstacles limit the spread of social farming in Europe? How does agritourism contribute to the sustainability and vitality of rural areas? Last but not least, why are farms referred to as open-air classrooms in the context of multifunctionality? Okay, so now we'll go and see the answers together. What social and cultural function does agriculture perform in addition to production? Well, it acts as a hub of community life, preserves cultural heritage, fosters social inclusion, and promotes education, well-being, and community engagement. Why are these functions particularly relevant in marginal rural areas? Because multifunctionality can support rural regeneration, social innovation, and community resilience where economic opportunities are limited. What is meant by non-market goods generated by multifunctional farms? Social services, landscape stewardship, cultural continuity, and other public goods that are not remunerated by the market. Not yet. How do traditional agricultural landscapes contribute to the preservation of European cultural heritage? They reflect centuries of interaction between people and land, preserve biocultural diversity, and embody ecological wisdom essential for managing fragile ecosystems. Why is traditional knowledge considered essential for sustainability of agricultural systems? Practices like mixed cropping, seasonal grazing, dry stone walling enhance biodiversity, soil fertility, and landscape resilience, supporting sustainability development. What is social farming and which categories of people benefit from it? Social farming integrates agriculture activities with therapeutic, social, educational programs benefiting vulnerable groups such as people with disability, elderly individuals, former inmates, and children with special needs. What obstacles limit the spread of social farming in Europe? Limited awareness, fragmented policies, insufficient institutional support, and bureaucratic obstacles discourage farmers from adopting these practices, or better say, discourage some of them. Others are doing it. Okay, now, how does agritourism contribute to the sustainability and viability of rural areas? It diversifies farm income, preserves rural landscape, promotes traditional practices, and enhances environmental and cultural education for visitors. Why are farms referred to as open-air classrooms in the context of multifunctionality? Because they host educational activities such as workshops, school visits, and cultural events that promote environmental awareness, intergenerational learning, and the transmission of rural tradition. Thank you for listening to this lesson and keep learning. Don't miss the next lesson to continue discovering the many aspects of multifunctionality in agriculture. There is still much to learn, and you certainly don't want to miss this opportunity.